With the 2024 season concluding for the New York Mets, offseason speculation is already underway, and there will be a lot of Mets that you know and love on this 2024 team that will not be returning next season. I'm going to go over the three biggest possibilities and reasons why. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to this new offseason edition of Mets Digest with your host, Michael DeAngelo, as you see on the screen. Hope everyone has chosen who they will be rooting for in the World Series. I already told you guys in the last video I'm going with the Dodgers, but it's a dark path wherever you choose. But we will all suffer together while we speculate what will be happening in the offseason for the Mets. But before I get started, I ask that you please subscribe to Mets Digest as we are about to hit 1,600 subscribers, and now we will be covering all offseason reports, trade rumors, free agency rumors, all of that. Anything that we hear, we will be covering it, me and Flowo Boys, on this channel. All things Mets offseason baseball, right here, your one-stop shop, Mets Digest. 83% of you guys watching these videos aren't even subscribed. So I don't know what these people come along on this channel looking for. But while you're here watching these videos, and this stat has been for a while, and so you might as well just hit the subscribe button and be along with the ride of the off season. Now, this was an article uploaded by Sporting News, and they gathered together three Mets that will not be returning next season, and they gave their reasons why. I will be giving my opinions and my reasons why I wouldn't think they would return. But let's get started right away here. I'm going to get some of the obvious choices out of the way first. And the first one is Harrison Bader. And, you know, as much as a great defensive outfielder he was and provided a good amount of power throughout the dog days of May and June, it is pretty obvious with him being only on a one-year deal and being an impending free agent that he will not be returning to the Mets this season. Mainly because of, you know, just the youth coming in now. The obvious choice being Luis Angel Acuna, who was ranked our #1 prospect last year and has seen some time already in the major leagues towards September and got to see a couple of innings defensively at second base in the playoffs, got a couple of pinch running appearances. So he will most likely be Harrison Bader's replacement in center field. Of course, Brandon Nimmo is the other option as well, but he will most likely stick in left field, barring that no big free agent additions, Juan Soto. But what mainly, yeah, besides that, Luis Angel Acuna and Harrison Bader, and of course, you know, down in the minors, AAA, you still got Drew Gilbert, you still got Ryan Clifford. Those are a ton. We have a ton of just talented outfielders who are ready to take the field and make some big time additions for this Mets team. I would say Starling Marte as well too, but he can no longer play center field. And in my opinion, if I had to add a fourth Met onto this list, which spoiler alert, he's not on here, but if I had to add a fourth Met onto this list, Starling Marte would be my other choice. But yeah, mainly because of, you know, the Juan Soto rumors and all of that. But let's move on to the next player, and that is Luis Severino, starting pitcher. He put together a great season for us. I see the almost 4 ERA, but that doesn't really tell the story about what he did for us throughout the entire regular season. This man was practically our ace while Kodai Senga was out for pretty much the whole season. I mean, he put together, you know, good starts, good consistent starts in a row, which is something that he struggled with throughout most of his career with the Yankees, was being a consistent starter. He developed a little bit better consistency now with this Mets team. Why? Because he's on a one-year deal and he wants money. So Scott, you know, he's a Scott Boras client. So of course Boras is gonna try and get him the best deal, give him some long-term type of contract, if anyone's willing to pay him. He's 30 years old already. I doubt he gets anything above 4 or 5 years. I could see a 3 or 4 year deal coming his way by another team. But with my reason being, of course, more youth coming in to the pitching rotation. We got Christian Scott, who was our number 8 prospect last year for most of the pipeline. And, Brandon Sproat as well, who won a bunch of minor league awards this year, being in Double A, who he might actually skip out on Triple A and they might pull him up straight to the majors if he has a great spring training. And as well as, being other free agency rumors, Corbin Burns on the market as well, Patrick Corbin on the market, Garrett Cole who will possibly be on the market, and of course having to throw money at other players that we need back. Maybe Sean Manaea is a candidate to come back, those. Also, with the money being retained from Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander being off the books, that opens up a ton of more possibilities, being able to spend more money on the pitching staff. And of course, you got to worry about that damn bullpen too. So, there just may not be enough money to retain a guy like Severino, especially Quintana and Sean Manaea too. Quintana's turning 36 this year. So a lot of those like veteran pitchers that are on 1 year, 2 year deals, they'll probably be out the door. And just with the new youth guys coming in, right now it's looking like Kodai Senga, David Peterson, Christian Scott, and you got pretty much 2 kind of open spots there in the rotation. I'm sure McGill will be fighting for a spot but won't make it because of some free agency additions. Like I said, Corbin Burns, Roki Sasaki coming over from Japan. David Stearns, being with the Brewers with Corbin Burns, there's a connection there. There's just no possibility of Luis Severino returning. If you guys were even big fans of him in the first place. But moving on after Luis Severino, now this is going to be where the big argument is, and of course, you guys have heard my opinions already on this, and I will give my reasons why he will not return, but of course, I'm gonna have to give my input on why he should return, and everyone knows what is coming, and that is Pete Alonso, first baseman. Sporting News put in their article that he will be one Met that is not returning this offseason, mainly because of the Juan Soto rumors, and with the amount of money that you're going to have to pay Juan Soto, that just leaves no money left for Pete Alonso, which is a pretty reasonable, take to say something like that. If you were able to land a guy like Juan Soto, it would be pretty possible that Pete Alonso would not be returning because we would just have not enough money for him. And, of course, with the abundance of young infielders that we have now, Mark Vientos, of course, star on the rise, can easily play first base, can easily be a DH. Ronnie Mauricio as well, coming back from a torn ACL or Achilles, I'm not sure. He can play third base, doesn't really want to play third base, but he can. Also can play second base. And as well as Jeff McNeil, who, if he were to stay on this team, would most likely be moved to the outfield next season. But he is probably our biggest trade candidate for this offseason, being on that 4-year extension now with at least, I think, 2 years left on it. He is probably our biggest trade asset that we're looking at right now. But putting the focus back on Pete Alonso, Sporting News put in the article that he was second to last in defensive range and arm strength, giving the reason that he was a liability. I think that's pretty an invalid reason to label him as a liability in defense, because in my opinion, I don't know if you guys were watching the entire regular season, after he would strike out on some dumb pitches, or after he would pop out in foul territory, he would immediately go out there on the defensive end and make up for it. He would make some pretty great plays in foul territory on some tough pop-ups, made some great diving plays, not letting balls get past his hole. In my opinion, I think Pete Alonso was, besides Francisco Lindor, I think Pete Alonso was our best defensive infielder besides Lindor. I barely saw any mistakes from him all season long, and he put together a great defensive year after being labeled as a liability coming up to the major leagues. That was his biggest flaw, and now in my opinion, that was his biggest strength this season, being that, his WAR, his slugging, his batting average, his, every hitting stat was way down this year. Even though, let me look at these stats again. Even though he still had 34 home runs on the year, which is still above average, that's considered a down year for this all-star first baseman. I mean, the fact that this is labeled as a bad year for Pete Alonso, and he was still able to put together 34 home runs, and was second in the team in RBIs. I mean, it was just to see how he handled it. I mean, this man should be back. I don't see a situation where he really leaves, besides if we were to acquire Juan Soto. I don't see a situation where Pete Alonso leaves. I know Scott Boras is a tough agent to deal with, and with star players, he likes to wait to right before spring training to get a player their contract. But with the year that Pete Alonso had this year, I'm sure that he'll have a few offers come his way right away, and he'll wait them out and whatever. But we could possibly be seeing a type of prove it deal for Pete Alonso. I mean, we could see a 1 or 2 year deal with an opt out after the first year and just give him a ton of money with that. I mean, something like what we gave Justin Verlander. Like where he gets paid like $45-50 million a year, but it's only for 2 years. It's only for 1 year. That could be an option that Pete Alonso could take coming down to this off season. So who knows what he wants? In my opinion, I think it should be a nice like 8 or 9 year deal with an opt out after like the 6th or 7th year. And the money, I'm not really sure. Maybe he's a over $300 million player. That's probably, considering what the Mets market is and the amount of money that they have now, that's what he'll be asking. But for the most part, chemistry wise, team spirit wise, this man has been an awesome co-captain for this team. And, he's displayed time and time again how much he loves being here and how much he loves representing the Mets. You could see it in his face just how nervous he is, and how how many jitters he has about like what's gonna happen, like am I gonna stay? You could tell he's nervous and just wants this whole situation to be done and over with. He wants to know if he's going to be with the Mets for the rest of his career or not. And I'm pretty sure after what he did for these playoffs, it should be no discussion now that we would want Pete Alonso back here on this team. But like I said before, if there was a miraculous addition of Juan Soto or any type of other big free agent or any type of other big trade, that would be the only situation where I would probably see Pete Alonso not returning, and then therefore I would see Mark Vientos taking over at first base, and with Ronnie Mauricio taking over third, maybe Brett Beatty, who's on his way back. But for the most part, we will talk about those guys later on in other videos. But that is all I have for you guys here today with Mets Digest. Make sure you guys subscribe here, and we will be on top of these videos all off season long with any reports, rumors, trades, all of that, with the World Series about to get underway sooner or later. And I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, y'all.